Hello everyone, in this lecture I am gonna explain verbal phrase and its kinds, but before I start this lecture, if you are new to my channel then please like the video and subscribe the channel. Let's first learn that what a verbal phrase is. It can be defined as: a verbal phrase is a group of words that contains a verb and its complements, objects, or modifiers, but it does not function as a complete sentence. What does it mean? This is the best definition of a verbal phrase. Simply, it means that a verbal phrase is nothing but it refers to a phrase which has a group of words that centers around a verb and functions collectively as a single part of speech. The second point is, it does not form a complete sentence but rather adds detail and meaning to a sentence by providing additional information about an action or state. In other words, you can say that a verbal phrase will have a verb and some related words which can be its modifiers, object or a complement. But you need to remember that this group of words will not function as a sentence, rather it will function as part of speech in a sentence. By a part of speech I mean that either it will function as a noun, an adverb, an adjective, etc. As you have understood a verbal phrase. Now learn that there are three verbal phrases. They are gerund phrase, infinitive phrase and participle phrase. There must be a question in your mind that why it is called a verbal phrase. The simple answer is, there must be a verb in these phrases. So that is why they are called verbal phrases. Let's first learn a gerund phrase. It can be defined as: a gerund phrase is a group of words that includes a gerund, which is a verb ending in ing that functions as a noun in a sentence. What does it mean? Simply, it means that a gerund phrase is nothing but it refers to ing form of a verb which has some associated words and functioning as a noun in a sentence. There must be a question in your mind that why it is called a verbal phrase. The simple answer is this phrase starts with a verb and this verb has its own related words. So, therefore it is called a verbal phrase. I think you are not getting the point. Just look at these examples. Playing in the park is allowed with friends. Observe this example. Here, playing in the park is a gerund phrase. Basically, this is a verbal phrase because if you look at this phrase, it starts with a verb, and it functions as a noun in this sentence. You can see this is a group of words, but this group of words functions as a single part of speech. Simply, it functions as the subject of this sentence. As we have said that a verbal phrase will function as a single part of speech. So, it functions as a noun which plays the role of a subject in this sentence. She enjoys reading mystery plays. Observe this example. Here in this sentence, reading mystery plays is a gerund phrase. And it is also called a verbal phrase. The reason is simple, it starts with a verb and it has some associated words, and another point is, this group of words functions a single part of speech. Simply, it plays the role of a noun and here in this sentence it is the object. His favorite activity is swimming in the ocean. Look at this example. The gerund phrase is swimming in the ocean, and it is also known as a verbal phrase. Actually, as we have said in the definition that a verbal phrase contains a verb and it has some related words. So, you can see this phrase starts with swimming which is derived from the verb, swim. To put it simple, that is why it is called a verbal phrase. This is one type of a verbal phrase. The next verbal phrase is infinitive phrase. An infinitive phrase is a group of words that begins with an infinitive verb and includes any modifiers, objects, and complements. What does it mean? Simply, it means that it is another type of a verbal phrase which starts with an infinitive and it has its own modifiers, object or a complement. As you know, an infinitive refers to a type of a verb which starts with a base verb preceded by a preposition, to. For example, to go, to eat, to enjoy. Actually, All infinitive phrases will be started with these types of a verb, but it will not be alone, it will have some associated words. The third point is, this phrase will play the role of a part of a speech. Simply, it can function as a noun, an adjective, or an adverb. Just look at these examples. To win the match is their goal. Look at this example, here, to win the match, is an infinitive phrase. As we have said in the definition that an infinitive phrase begins with an infinitive verb and it has some associated words. So you can see this phrase starts with an infinitive verb, to win. Simply, it starts with a verb, so that is why it is called a verbal phrase. And here it plays the role of a noun which functions as the subject. He arrived early to avoid the traffic jam. Observe this example, here, to avoid the traffic jam, is a verbal phrase. The reason is this phrase starts with the verb, to avoid, and here it does not function as a verb but it functions as an adverb in this sentence. Simply, the infinitive phrase, to avoid the traffic jam, modifies the verb, arrived, by explaining the reason for his early arrival. So, you can see, this verbal phrase plays the role of an adverb because it tells us that why he arrived early. The reason is because he wanted to avoid the traffic jam. I want to learn a new language. Look at this example, here, to learn a new language, is a verbal phrase. The reasons are that it is a group of words and it starts with a verb, to learn, and in this sentence it does not function as a verb but it functions as a direct object. As you have understood an infinitive phrase as a verbal phrase, let's learn a participle phrase as a verbal phrase. It can be defined as: a participle phrase is a group of words consisting of a participle and any modifiers, objects, or complements, and it functions as an adjective, providing additional information about a noun or pronoun in a sentence. What does it mean? Simply, it means that a participle phrase is nothing but it refers to a phrase which starts with a participle and it has some related words. Do you know a participle? Let me tell you in simple words that a participle is nothing but it is a form of verb, like eating, speaking, beaten, celebrated. But you should know that eating and speaking are called present participle and beaten are called past participle. Another important point is a participle phrase will always function as an adjective. You should remember that it starts with these forms of a verb, that is why it is also called verbal phrases. Just look at these examples. Running down the street, the dog barked loudly. Observe this example, here the participle phrase is, running down the street. Actually, it is verbal phrase because it starts with a verb, and it is a group of words. You should also learn that this group of words functions as a single part of speech. Simply, it plays the role of an adjective because it modifies the noun phrase, the dog. I hope you are getting the point. If not, just look at another example. Exhausted by the long day, she fell asleep quickly. Observe this example, here, exhausted by the long day, is a verbal phrase because this phrase starts with a past participle and it functions as an adjective, because it modifies the pronoun, she, in this sentence. Who was exhausted? The simple answer is, she was exhausted. The sparkling necklace caught her eye. Look at this last example, here, the sparkling is a verbal phrase because it has a present participle, and it functions as an adjective because it modifies the noun, necklace. I hope you have enjoyed this lecture, but please don't forget like and subscription to my channel. Thank you.